December 20th, 2011. We'll begin our meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have Ms. Mull again as our secretary this evening. Ms. Mull, can you, Mrs. Mull, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Zupka?
Here.
Mrs. Vislowski? Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Snipe?
Here.
Okay, thank you. All right, first item on our agenda this evening is consider adopting the 2012 budget and resolutions establishing the millage rate for 2012. About a month ago, I guess a little more than a month ago maybe, we had a very comprehensive presentation from Mrs. Rukoff, our finance director, regarding the budget, and the budget has been publicized since then, available for people to look at on the website, as well as at some public places, including here in this building, as well as at Fallsington Library, Levittown Library too. I can't remember, just Fallsington, right? Okay. What obviously people have had a chance to ask questions and take a look at it, and we're going to take a look at approving this budget, hopefully approving this budget this evening. Mr. Gray, comments? You want to add anything there?
Yes, the board is asked to consider adopting the 2012 budget. The budget was approved for authorization to advertise on November 15th. As you had mentioned, it has been on display in the Township building and on the Township website. In addition, a resolution has been prepared establishing millage rates for 2012. The board is asked to consider this item tonight.
Okay. And of course, I guess the most important thing for people to know, as has been the case for over a decade now, the tax rates are staying the same here in Falls Township. We're not going up at any rate, and that's establishing essentially the township. The average township millage for residential property taxes is about $216 a year, and that's very low in comparison with other places. I think just last night, or their Lower Makefield approved a budget, and their township property taxes were somewhere in the $600 to $700 range. I know in some other places, pretty much everywhere I've been seeing in the newspaper recently, the taxes have been much higher than that. I know just in Bristol Borough, for example, the cost of trash collection is actually over $300 a year per house. And that's not even counting the property taxes they have to pay in Bristol Borough. That is not Bristol Township, Bristol Borough. So it gives us an idea. Of course, township there is no township fee for trash collection here. So one of the advantages to the various waste management agreements that have been done over the past couple decades. All right, we'll have comments and questions from board members, and then open up to public comment if any is needed. Mr. Zupka.
Thank you. Just really a comment. It's we're going to approve the budget for next year, and it is just that. It's a budget, and we really need to do our best in the coming year, the new board, to stay within the budget, not be moving or taking funds from different accounts to make up for possibly I won't say a shortfall, but for something else that was decided to be done, or something that we ran over a budget on. We do that, we end up with, frankly, the circus that's going on down in Washington right now. They just keep printing money, making money. They've robbed the Social Security fund, and they're not staying within the budget. They just make it up as they go along. So I'm just saying, let's I think normally we do a pretty good job in it, but I think it's become more important to really stay within the budget that we're going to pass this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snipes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank everyone in the Finance Department, Mrs. Rukoff especially, and all others for their hard work on the budget. Again, we're coming in, I call it a balanced budget, with a situation where we are able to pay the bills that we have. We're able to maintain our services at a very high level where other townships are cutting them. And I think we're in excellent financial shape. Doesn't mean that there won't be some contingencies that may happen next year, but I think we're in good shape to handle those if and when they come. We did discuss looking at next year, how much of the road program, should we shrink the road program or should we take it in at a larger level and just continue? We decided to continue through, knowing that costs for the road program would only be greater in the years as they come. So we've tried to look at each issue, each separate budget item, and do it in the most responsible way we can. I think we've come forward with a good budget. I'm happy to hear if there's any public comment, but I'm ready to pass it this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
Mr. Snipes pretty much covered it there, but I would like to comment and expand on something you pointed out, was the trash collection. Most townships, next to their police force, their biggest expense is trash collection, which is something that we don't pay for. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. I agree with all the comments that have been made. Certainly, I agree with Mr. Zupka's points that it is important to stay within the budget that you make and stay within your means. And I think we've tried to do that as hard as we can over the past few years. We are in better shape financially than pretty much every other municipality. Save one or two that are pretty close to us in this county and probably in this state. And so we do have a little bit of a luxury in terms of being able to not lay people off. We can give our departments most of what they need. And we have a very good financial team here, not only our finance director, but also our manager, who has a wealth of finance experience as well. Gives us a real big advantage, I think, in how to take the people's money, which is what it is, the people's money, and use it properly and use it for the best interest of the people, whether it's improving parks and recreation, whether it's improving roads, keeping, as Mr. Snipes said, the high services we have. And doing our best to try and make sure that they have the tools to do their job even better. So again, I'd like to echo the comments, thanking Mr. Gray, thanking especially Mrs. Rukoff and all the people in her department and all the department heads who put together their list of things they needed to have for next year, and worked with our administration to put together a very, very good budget. Is there any public comment needed? See a couple hands. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Mr. Mariani?
See if you can hold my hand through this, because I know I'm just tiny bit more conservative than some of the people here are. I noted some of the highlights that pertain to our 2012 budget, and I have, in addition to what I noted, I have a couple of suggestions for future budgets, and I think might be appropriate to bring that up tonight. Now, I note the income from the host community thing is going to be $10.5 million this year. Of that, $9 million, and in another section, $9.5 million, are going to be used for the general fund. In addition to that, we're going to take another $1 million out of our reserve fund to balance the general fund. Now, just these two transactions alone, about 63%, probably exceeds 63% of our budget. And I understand the occasional use of host fees to pay for, capital expenditures, especially if they're extraordinary, like roads, so on and so forth, and for major repairs and replacements. My concern with the use of this kind of income is that I believe we become so accustomed to the ease and its availability to us that our budget expenditures tend to exceed sometimes the purpose of our township government's responsibility. And there's a difference there. And what that tends to do, it tends to reduce strict adherence to overruns and cost restraints. If we didn't have these host fees, our taxes would probably be somewhere over $1,100. Of course, we wouldn't be doing the things we're doing either. Couple of things that I noticed. The boat ramp was $208,000 over budget. The boat fees were only $12,000. Now, I understand that that was kind of late in the the year when we began to collect those fees. But will those fees now, this coming year, support that boat ramp, that thing that we call an amenity? The overtime costs that I noticed, I think were excessive. I think we take a good look at that. Now, Falls Township is going to receive a county grant in the amount of $217,000, which is going to pay for the M4 weapons, the K9, so on and so forth. Are we going to reduce the $374,000 that we have in the budget to provide our police department with the same thing? These are the things that little conservative guys sometimes notice. Now, looking at the 2012 budget, there's two areas that I think we ought to scrutinize and keep in mind for our coming budgets. And they are health care and pensions. I think are very important. We got to look toward the future when, as Mr. Snipes says, we come to the end point. We don't want to be in trouble. Now, an AP survey indicated that over the 50 states, they have a combined $690 billion, that's with a B, in unfunded pension liabilities, $418 billion in retiree health care. So I'm saying, let's take a look at that. I noticed that our health care expenses indicate about a 35% increase from 8 to 2012, in some cases, considerably more. The Kaiser Family Foundation reports that the rules these days are that contributions to health care to be 20 to 30%. I don't know what our employee contribution is if they make a contribution. I don't know if the contributions that our employees make depend on the family size or if it's a more inclusive type plan. These are things I'm saying, let's look at them, the future's coming. Does health care in this township follow retirees? And if it does, should it? So we got to look at. The other thing I had in mind was the pension plans. Now, most Americans are living into their 80s, which means I'm going to be here for a little while longer. So pay attention to what I'm saying, because there's going to be a test next year when we have a budget. Is paying a lifetime pension, right, to retirees who retire at 45, 55, and 60 fiscally sustainable? You don't have host fees. How long are you going to go on with that? Now, if we haven't taken a look at that, then I think we ought to take a look at establishing a defined contribution plan versus what we have, a defined pension plan. The only other thing I would add for the future budgets is something I've been asking for a long time. The chairman's smiling. He knows what's going to come. You should include a program to accumulate future income and invest it only in secured accounts. That fund could never be used or be available for expenditures for normal operations or to cover any deficiencies in our budgets. Okay, you do that with taxes. When you use taxes to do that kind of thing, it serves as a restraint on those people that are spending our money. Purpose of the fund is obvious, is to provide perpetual dividend income to be returned every single year to our residents. So let's think about those couple things for the future. If you have a question for me, I'd be glad to answer it, or a comment, or if you think what I said is not what it should be, we could discuss that too.
Sure. Well, I'm going to let Mr. Kinney speak, and then we'll I think he wants to speak too, correct, Mr. Kinney? All right. Yeah, and then we can have some, sure. Thank you for your comments.
Roland Kinney, Falls Township. I think the young lady did a good budget, and last meeting, I think it was, I wasn't here. I seen a young man get up here and start to go after her about some stupid stuff. You ought to learn about budgets before he goes after this young lady because she got it on the ball. So let nobody stand. You did a good job. Mr. Gray did a good job. All the office help did a good job. Leave it be. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? See no hands, or a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, I mean, I'll comment just on Mr. Kinney, Mr. Mariani brought up some good points. Certainly the issue with healthcare and pensions is something we look at all the time, and Mr. Gray has spent a lot of time this year looking at healthcare alternatives. Of course, the employees we have, the vast majority of them are in one of 3 different unions, and as we negotiate, contracts with them, then we certainly take a look at healthcare. That's usually the sticking point nowadays with most contracts, especially in the public workforce. And I know, he and I, we're going to disagree a little bit over in terms of what the role of government is. In my mind, it's to provide for the needs of the community. And the needs change, and certainly what's a need for some and a desire for some is not necessarily a desire for others. But I think we've tried very hard to balance out what we're doing to provide for people, whether it's handicapped children or people that own pets or people that own boats or people that play baseball or play soccer, or and obviously the road program is something we do for the benefit of everybody. In turn, I know you brought up the grant that we received through the it was a Parks Casino, basically through the county. That was something that came in after, of course, the budget had already been advertised. We didn't understand, we didn't know we were going to get it. And so that's something that I agree with you in saying that I would like to see the money that we had budgeted for some of those items be put possibly back into the long-term restricted savings. Just, if we have the money coming from somewhere else, we don't have to spend that money, that extra amount. We can put aside the money we had allocated already. But that's my opinion, and that's something we can work forward with this budget. It doesn't sort of lock us in. We have the ability now with that extra money from the grant. Gives us a little bit more freedom to maneuver. Any other comments or questions from board members before I entertain a motion?
No, none.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
just one last thing. We've raised it before, at least I've raised it before, and it follows up a bit on what Mr. Mariani was saying about the importance or the possibility, the option for us to do some long-range planning. And I know it's tricky to do. The numbers are never predictable, and I've raised this before, and I've discussed it with Mr. Gray, and he thinks we don't have to hire some fancy schmancy consultants to do it. We could do a lot of this work in-house. But to give a sense, for instance, when the road program ends, we won't be spending several $1 million a year on the road program. So that's money that could go into something else, go into our long-term restricted. Those kinds of questions when the landfill closes in 20 years or so. Can we project how much we will have built up in our long-term restricted savings, how much that's producing for us to run our programs? Mr. Mariani is right that this township has depended quite a bit on our relationships with a particular few businesses to fund a lot of our operations, and that's been crucial for us. Nothing wrong with it, but we do need to keep an eye on that. So I hope maybe even in January, February, we can begin doing some type of long-range financial planning, just to give ourselves a picture of are we sailing along well? Are there pitfalls we're going to encounter along the way if we continue approving budgets the way that we're doing them, which at the moment seem to be well and balanced. But I think the importance of some long-range planning is important.
And I agree with you. And I think, as Mr. Kinney said, we have a bright young lady here who can help us with our budget. And now that the budget's pretty much finished, there really isn't anything else for her to do. It's all free time at this point, right? Until like August or so. But yeah, I mean, I think certainly it's a good idea. And again, this is, joking, of course, Mrs. Rukoff and her staff work very, very hard. The auditing season starts pretty soon, and so it's busy all year. But certainly it's something I think we can take a look at now that this real heavy part of the workload is finished. We can maybe start looking at that, and of course involves getting everybody involved, talking to people like Mr. Sullivan in terms of road programs and projecting costs of that nature, and looking at our waste management agreement and taking a look at how much we're expected to get over the life of that contract. And talking to our insurance broker in terms of what insurance might cost. So, no, I think that's a good idea. So, all right. If there are no more comments or questions, then we'll look toward a motion. This, excuse me, like the resolution will be 11-25.
25.
All right, so we would first have a motion to adopt the budget as presented. And then we would look second at a resolution establishing the millage rate for 2012. So is there a motion to adopt the budget for 2012 as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Mull?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
All right, then a resolution 11-25 would be to establish the millage rate for the year 2012. Again, no tax increase in Falls Township. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 11-25?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Mull?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, thank you to Mrs. Rukoff and to Mr. Gray. All right, we're going to adjust our agenda here this evening. We're moving item 7 up to item 2. Okay, the Comcast cable agreement. Cable providers operating in municipalities enter agreements with those municipalities that involve a wide variety of things, basically the right to work here in the township and provide services and the cost of those, not cost of service necessarily, but the amount of money that the township gets as a community that sort of allows for this agreement to take place. The contract has been discussed, the proposed contract, I should say. Our Cable Advisory Board has taken a look at it. I know Bill Renson from our Cable Advisory Board is here, longtime member of that board. I think Brian Jeter, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Jeter is the representative from Comcast who's here. And I know that Mrs. Gallagher from our solicitor's office has worked very hard on this as well. So, Mr. Gray, if I missed anything?
No, that's about it.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if we want to have just a highlight in terms of what we're looking at here, in terms of, or we're going to have Mr. Jeter or Mr. Renson come forward if they're comfortable. Evening, Mr. Jeter.
Good evening. I just have some few remarks prepared, so I'll run through those. So good evening, Township Supervisors and staff, Cable Advisory Committee members, Township residents. My name is Brian Jeter. I'm the Senior Director of Government Affairs and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast and Bucks in Montgomery County. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to answer any questions or concerns you may have regarding the pending cable franchise renewal approval before the Board of Supervisors tonight. I would also be remiss without thanking the Township Administration, Peter Gray, the Township Manager, Solicitor Lauren Gallagher, and then, of course, without question, working with Bill Renson and the Cable Advisory Committee over the years, attending meetings, answering questions and concerns from residents, and particularly, obviously, they had an opportunity to work with, I've had the opportunity to work with them on the cable franchise renewal and the cable-related needs to the Township. In short, the cable renewal process is a process under the Cable Act, which is federal law, that allows the Township to review the technical, legal, financial qualifications of the cable operator, which would obviously be Comcast, as well as identify any cable-related needs of the community and the cost of meeting such needs. Those qualifications and needs make up the current agreement that's in front of you for approval tonight. We believe and we think, and I hope, with the support of Bill Renson, the cable chair of the advisory committee for a long time here in the Township, that this agreement entails all the customer protections and consumer protections, the other regulatory language, which I can certainly discuss some of those if need be, that are allowable and permissible under the Cable Act under federal law. There are several examples that are in the agreement. I can certainly address those. One of which that we spent some time on was the continuation of the government and education access channels throughout the Township. We obviously think that's an important cable-related need of the community, and it continues to need to happen. And in discussion with both the Cable Advisory Committee and the Township Administration, we've also been able to provide and secure a grant to continue those services that we provide, and also for any other technology-related need that the township may feel is necessary over the term of the franchise. Switching gears, as you may know, Comcast has been committed to the community and to the township. We have proactively and positively over the years worked with the administration and the cable advisory members by attending meetings, and we look forward to continuing that relationship. In addition, we continue to make significant investments into our network here in the township and throughout the county. And we've continued to do that without any regulatory oversight or any franchise commitment to do so. We think it's obviously good business. We continue to invest in advanced technology and product offerings, and as I've explained over the years to the Cable Advisory Committee, we continue to bring that to here to Bucks County, particularly to Falls Township, as a market to launch to first for Comcast, and we're proud of that. We've increased our internet broadband speeds. We offer now more than 30,000 hours of on-demand content. We have 8,000 HD choices available to you. We have up to 150 HD channels. And we have about 60,000 hours of TV access or entertainment choices across our platform, which would be our Xfinity On Demand, our Xfinity Online products, and our Xfinity TV apps. So we're continually investing and upgrading into the network, whereas opposed to years ago, there were rebuild and upgrade commitments that were made by the previous cable operators, and many of you may remember those as the system was rebuilt over the years. Our system has been rebuilt, and it's really designed now to be able to launch product as our customers demand it on a continual basis and bring it here to Bucks County, and particularly Falls Township, as quick as we can. In conclusion, we respectfully request the board's approval of the cable franchise agreement with Comcast. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'd also like to thank the township residents and certainly Bucks County residents who invest in our company, invest in Comcast by being a customer. We appreciate your business, and we look forward to continuing to serve you. I'm open to answer any questions that you may have, certainly from the Board of Supervisors and the residents here that are here tonight. Again, thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jeter. Mr. Renson?
Bill Renton, Chairman of the Cable Advisory Board. I'd like to thank Pete Gray, Township Manager, and Laura Gallagher for their help all through the meetings and through the negotiations and the meeting. We had a good meeting on Monday. At this time, I also would like to thank my board members that helped with the negotiations. Again, I stand up here in front of the board, and we have a good contract, and I would like to recommend to the supervisors that they do accept the contract.
Okay, thank you. All right, comments or questions from board members, either from Mr. Renson, or Mr. Jeter, Mr. Gray, Ms. Gallagher, Mr. Zipko?
Thank you. I was going to ask Mr. Renson what he thought of the contract, but I don't have to, because he answered that already for me. You've been on the Cable Advisory Board since its inception, haven't you?
Just about, yeah.
So I'd have to say if you're satisfied with it, you know all the ins and outs of it better than any of us, and have it explained to it. It's fine with me. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
Could you explain the $20,000 grant you mentioned, one of you, please?
Sure. We generally provide a grant in order to help continue to support either the existing education and government access channels. During the previous renewal, the operator, well, we inherited it, or it was transferred to us, but there was investment made in order to buy new equipment and things of that nature. So we also put a grant together to continue that effort, because the township here is in a unique situation in terms of your long-standing having a channel for your residents. While the channels have grown over the years from community to community, there are very few municipalities that have been doing it as long as you have. So we thought that it was important for us to make an investment either into obviously a decision made by all of you and the township administration, but you can use those dollars towards that particular purpose or other technology related needs that you may see fit over the course of the term of the franchise.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Now, and I want to echo the comments already. Thank you, gentlemen, for your work. Mr. Renson, you and your board especially. And again, Ms. Gallagher, for the hard work putting this together. Any comments or questions from the public? See no hands. All right, then. We are looking to I would hope anyway, based on the comments we've heard, to approve the agreement between the Township of Falls and Comcast of Levittown LLC as presented to us this evening.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Mrs. Moll?
Mr. Zuka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Yes. Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda then, looking back, consider awarding workers' compensation contract for the year 2012. Mr. Gray?
Township requested and received a quote for workers' compensation insurance for the year 2012. Our current carrier, Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust, provided a quote in the amount of $379,589. This represents a reduction of $8,845 from the 2011 premium of $388,434. We also received estimates from two other carriers, ACE Insurance and State Workers Insurance Fund, although their rates were not as favorable. Their rates were approximately $457,000 and $491,000 respectively. 46-member municipalities participate in the trust. As a comparison, Bristol Township and Middletown Township are projected to pay $793,000 and just over $515,000 respectively for their workers' compensation coverage. The board is asked to consider Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust for Falls Township's workers' compensation insurance carrier for the year 2012 at a premium of $379,589.
Okay. All right, so good news. Obviously, we're looking at a reduction in what we pay for workers' compensation. And obviously, you know, half of what's paid in Bristol Township and about $150,000 less than what's paid in Middletown. So obviously, good news. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zipka?
No, I have none.
Mr. Snipes?
When we compare ourselves to other townships, how do we attribute, or to what do we attribute our ability to have such a lower fee?
Our rates have historically been lower than our neighboring municipalities. We do have programs in place to give training to the employees. Our loss runs have been stable throughout the years, and based on those and some market conditions, we've been able to maintain lower amounts.
Thank you. It's good news. That's it.
Mr. Dents?
No, none.
Any comments or questions from the public? See no hands. All right, then, we're looking to award the workers' compensation contract for 2012 to Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust in the amount of $379,589.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Moll?
Mr. Zuka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so next item on our agenda is consider approving the computer maintenance agreement with Dynametrix for the year 2012. Mr. Gray?
Dynametrix provides computer-related services to Falls Township. Dynametrix has provided the township with a 1-year and also a 2-year proposal for services. The 1-year proposal is $45,781. This represents a 3% increase from the 2011 amount of $44,451. The 2-year agreement provides the same rate of $45,781 per each year. The board is asked to consider either the 1-year or 2-year agreement provided. In addition, here tonight, Mr. John Strazzeri, president of the Dynametrix Corporation, is available for any questions the board may have.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zipka?
Just a comment. We've been using Dynametrix for quite a few years. I've never really heard that we've had any problems. It's been good all along with them servicing us. I'd actually recommend we go with the 2-year program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Mr. Gray, I imagine pretty much every day there's some kind of issue of computer work or maintenance or questions.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, today we had I know of a virus that occurred on a computer, and we had a monitor that broke down. So John Struzeri is very active here in the township.
So obviously, obviously we need this. I haven't heard anything. I've only heard good things. And so I'm hoping we'll approve this tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
Almost every time I come into the township building, I see John here, and for a while I didn't realize he was a contractor and not an employee, because he is here that much. So I would agree with the 2-year agreement, if everyone else liked it. That's it.
All right. Okay, and obviously there's a huge convenience with having the contractor who does the work on the computers here actually in the building. You don't have to have any travel time for someone who's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, or an hour away while you're waiting for something to get done. And I likewise have had nothing but heard nothing but good things about Dynamics, the corporation, and I guess what I'm hearing from board members is an interest in the 2-year agreement, which essentially is the same rate for the 1 year, obviously just times 2. So there's no increase in rate for the second year. It's the same rate guaranteed for 2 years in a row.
Right.
Okay. Is there any public comment needed? See no hands. All right then, so I'll leave it up to board members for the motion. Either we have both agreements in front of us. One is a 1-year, one is a 2-year agreement. The rates are on the last page of each. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion for the 2-year contract, again, for the 2-year term for $91,562.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion made for a 2-year agreement and seconded. Mrs. Mull?
Mr. Zutka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I mentioned just a minute ago that DMX is located within this building. It's one of the private companies that is a tenant of the townships. We have office space here in the building. So some of it's available if anybody's interested. See Mr. Gray. But Dynametrix is one of those tenants, and we also have a lease that is up with them that we're looking to renew, and also another lease for G.H. Vaughn Insurance Managers, which is actually a company that handles our insurance. So their lease is also up. So Mr. Gray, we're looking to renew both of these. I'll turn it over to you for the specifics.
Yes. For the first one, Dynametrix, lease agreement has been secured. The lease is a 1-year deal from January 1st, 2012, ending December 31st. Rent for this office is based on $16.18 per square foot. Dynametrix does receive a $100 electric use credit per month for the township servers housed in his office. Vaughn Insurance, there is very similar to the Dynametrix agreement. There's also a 1-year deal, also $16.18 per foot, and the board is asked to consider both of these agreements at this time.
Okay. Per square foot, obviously.
Per square foot, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we have 2 agreements. We'll have to do them separately. Comments or questions from board members first? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mr. Snipes?
None, no.
Mr. Dents?
No, none.
I have none. Any public comment needed regarding these 2 lease proposals? No? Okay. All right. Let's just, in alphabetical order, I guess, we'll do Dynametrix first. Looking at a lease running from January 1, 2012 to December 31, 2012. Rent is $16.18 per square foot. Also noting the $100 credit for electric use that Dynametrix gets for housing the servers for Falls Township, which of course suck up a lot of electricity. Is there a motion to approve the lease for Dynametrix?
I'll make the motion to approve the lease for Dynametrix.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Mull?
Mr. Zutka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, the second lease for G.H. Vaughn Insurance Managers, $16.18 per square foot. Again, starting January 1st, 2012, ending December 31st, 2012. Is there a motion to approve the lease for Vaughn Insurance Managers as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Mull?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
And Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, next item on our agenda is consider police department purchase of pre-owned vehicles. A few months ago, the public might remember, the police department was looking for a few vehicles, used vehicles for use by detectives, and they put out bids. Because the vehicles were going to be more than $10,000, we have to bid anything over that the township is going to buy. No bids were received. We rebid, as is the law, and again, no bids were received. And so after having going through the bidding process twice, the township is now allowed to go out and just get the best price we could find. And Chief Wilcox has done that. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the police department has secured 2 quotes for the purchase of 2 detective vehicles. This has been advertised twice, and no bids were received on each occasion. Vehicles that were secured are as follows: a 2008 Malibu and a 2010 Corolla. The board is asked to consider the purchase of these 2 detective vehicles at $13,000 each for a total of $26,000.
Okay, we're buying these from the same location? or-
Peruzzi, yes.
Okay, all right, so we can do these at the same time, Mr. Clark? We don't have to do them separately?
You can do them at the same time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're looking at 2 vehicles, both purchased from Peruzzi, used vehicles, $13,000 each, so a grand total of $26,000. Is there any comment or question from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, is there a motion then to purchase the used vehicles for $26,000?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Moll?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Item 6 is consider advertising amendment to Chapter 146 Responsible Contractor Ordinance with regard to bidding limits. Mr. Gray.
Yes, this is for the board's consideration tonight for authorization to advertise. This would be an amendment to Chapter 146 Contractor Responsibility Certification. The state has passed legislation that will alter the limits for local government purchases and/or projects that require public bidding effective January 1st, 2012. This would affect Chapter 146, subsection 4 of the code. This reads qualified responsible contractor requirements. All contractors and subcontractors on any tier which perform work valued at over $10,000 on any public facility or public work project, including construction, alteration, renovation, repair, service, or maintenance, shall meet the requirements of this chapter. Basically, the $10,000 amount will be raised to $18,500. The board is asked to consider authorizing advertisement for this item.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, this is, I think this is good.
Mr. Snipes?
No. No questions.
Mr. Dents?
None.
No, I know Mr. Gray explained it very well. Like we said, anything over $10,000 you had to bid for. That was changed recently by the state, so now municipalities can just, anything over $18,500 has to be bid. Anything between $10,000 and $18,500, you're supposed to get 3 quotes on, by phone is fine. So this changes our responsible contractors ordinance to reflect what the state law now says. So we're looking just only to advertise this right now. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, then is there a motion to authorize advertisement of this amendment to Chapter 146?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right, up to public comment. See a few names on the list. Okay, first name, Roland Kenny.
Roland Kenny Falls Township. On the 1st and 2nd of this month, we had Holly night over Penn Manor. The first, I seen Sam Snipes and his wife there on the 1st, then Jonathan and his wife on the 2nd, and a neighbor of mine, Bill Davis. And it was very successful, especially on the night you were there, Jonathan. There was a lot of people. was going to say things about Officer. No, but his wife said forget about it, so I'm forgetting about it. I just want to thank Congressman Fitzpatrick, our committee man, Mr. Galloway. Been saying a lot of good things about trying to get stuff done, and we ought to all back them. So that's all I have to say. Have a good night. And last but not least, I'll say goodbye to Dorothy. I don't think I'll see her again on that board, so good night, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Hetzel?
Hello, I'm Kevin Hetzel. I'm from the Pinewood section of Falls Township. Firstly, I would like to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday. Everybody should be careful and safe and comfort of their family. Secondly, I would like to thank you, Mr. Harvey. It was not only an honor, but it was also a privilege to have been taught by you. I had learned many lessons and so much more than you had actually taught in that class. And that is pretty much it. I would just like to reiterate my graduation speech, though, by saying that the taxpayers are getting their money's worth by attending BCTHS or Bucks County Technical High School. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are the only names I have on the list. Anybody else wish to speak? No? Okay. All right. What's this over here? Okay, the next item on our agenda, the minutes from November 15th, 2011 are here before the board. Comments or questions from members of, or from the board regarding the minutes as presented? Mr. Zupka?
No, I've done.
Mr. Snipes?
No, I think we have excellent minutes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No.
And I don't have any. Okay, so we're looking for a motion then to approve the minutes as presented for November 15th, 2011.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next item on the agenda is the engineer's report from December 16th, 2011. Mr. Sullivan, any highlights you'd like to point out here? Hopefully there's a couple.
There's just a couple, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The 2010 road program, all punch list items that were outstanding have been resolved to the satisfaction of the township to a point where the project can enter the maintenance bond period, and that maintenance bond period will last 2 years. So any problems in those 2 years can be brought to the township's attention, and the contractor will have to address those issues. And there'll be at least one more comprehensive punch list before that period ends, and all items will be resolved at that time. 2011 road program continues with storm sewer work on Winding Way. There won't be any substantial roadway reconstruction until probably the second week of March, provided that the weather allows it at that point. But there will be no roads torn up during the winter time. The senior center notice to proceed will be issued sometime early in January, and that project will then start construction. The new parking areas at the community park have been completed. I believe they were striped today, so all those parking spaces are now available for public use. I believe that's all I have at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you. Comments or questions from Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Zupka?
Well, just a comment. I'm glad to see the natural gas fueling station is moving ahead, even though I guess most of our residents don't realize how many vehicles out there use them, and there really isn't that many at this point. But I think once a facility like this opens, well, the county does have some natural gas vehicles, but I think the usage will spread once there is more of a we'll say area to refuel them, and hopefully it'll spread, because we definitely have to use different sources to fuel our vehicles. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, just one quick question. I noticed number 7 on your report, Mr. Sullivan, which is the waste management wetlands mitigation next to Turkey Hill. Could you describe that a little bit? Are they required to do this because they're disturbing other wetlands in other areas? Is this a constructed wetlands, or what is this?
That is correct. It is a constructed wetlands because of the expansion of the Turkey Hill landfill.
Because of the expansion, so what's the relationship between the expansion and the creation of the
They
mitigation?
disturbed wetlands as part of the expansion of the project, so they're required to mitigate those wetlands by creating a constructed wetlands in the same area.
And how is that monitored, or what are the regulations that affect that, or what bodies have to oversee whether they've done that correctly or are doing it correctly?
All the proper permits from both the Conservation District and the DEP have to be secured. We will oversee the project for the most part, and there'll be a final inspection by both the district and the DEP when they're completed.
Any chance that they'd allow a board member to come and see the project? I've actually never seen a wetlands mitigation project. I'd be interested in seeing it.
I'm sure any board member would be welcome for that kind of inspection.
Good, then we'll be in contact about that.
Sounds good.
Thanks. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No, no questions or comments.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Sullivan, just to touch base, I think the baseball field is going to be going in down at Quaker Penn Park. Did we get the permits for that?
I got them today, actually. We received our NPDES permit and our Conservation District adequate letter today, so very soon we'll be issuing a notice to proceed to the contractor so that we can start. It's a bad time of year to start a baseball field, but there's things he can do at this time, and hit it pretty hard in the springtime. Hopefully get it done, so maybe we can use it in the fall.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Comments or questions for regarding the or public comment, I should say, regarding the engineer's report? See no hands. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report dated December 16th, 2011?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The bill list for December 20th, 2011. The bill list is the amount of $1,945,235.98. Of that, approximately of the 1.9 million, approximately 1 million is health insurance and salaries, and obviously a lot of other the costs involved. The road program, another almost $41,000, and some other bigger costs. Fuel, of course, is a big one. Actually, excuse me, road program more almost $300,000. Excuse me. Comments or questions about the bill list? Mr. Zupka.
No, none.
Mr. Snipes.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents.
No.
Any public comment? See no hands. All right, is there a motion then to pay the bills December 20th, 2011, the amount of $1,945,235.98?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Moll?
Mr. Zupa?
Yes.
Mrs. Bizlowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we don't have any need for an executive session. Okay, Mr. Gray, we're up to you.
Just two items tonight. First item, Township received a letter from Cliff Bidlingmeyer, President of the Fairless Hills Fire Department. Mr. Bidlingmeyer is representing Fairless Hills Volunteer Fire Department, requesting that Falls Township exempt the Fairless Hills Fire Department from the taxes for 2011. The board is asked to consider waiving these taxes for the calendar year.
Okay. And typically, fire departments are not taxed. However, Fairless Hills Fire Department does have a Comcast, or not a Comcast, excuse me, a cell phone tower located on their property. And because it is something they do make money on, the county considers that property something that can be taxed. In the past, we have forgiven them. It's a relatively small amount of property. It's a very small amount of tax. So, for the size building they have, and this is something we've done before. The cell tower does allow it's a way for the fire department to have some income that offsets their costs, and they can use that in addition to the other money they raise through banquet facilities, through obviously the taxes that they get from us, and also from the volunteers or from the donations of people throughout the community. Is there any any comments or questions regarding the request by Mr. Bidlingmeyer? Mr. Zupka?
No. No.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
None.
I have none. Any public comment needed? Seeing no hands. All right, then, is there a motion to waive the taxes for the Fairfield Hills Fire Department?
I'll make the
So
motion.
moved.
Okay. Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Zupka, seconded by Mr. Dents. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
My next item, Township received a letter from Jim Sullivan at T&M dated December 14th regarding escrow release number 1 for the towns at Oxford Falls, excuse me. T&M has reviewed the request for a reduction of the letter of credit submitted by the developer's representative, Mr. Michael Antonucci. Based on a recent inspection of the development, it has been determined that the items have been completed. The board is asked to consider a letter of credit reduction, number 1, for the towns at Oxford Falls in the amount of $344,772.71.
Okay, and these are the homes that were built on Oxford Valley Road near the Doral and Trace Apartments, correct?
Yes.
Near where the old Fuddruckers property was. Okay. All right, so we're looking to, since the project's completed, we can release the money to them. They've completed everything as it states here in the letter. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Mr. Dents?
None.
I have none. Public comment needed. I see no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to get the language right? Grant the letter of credit for an amount of $344,772.71 to, escrow release for the towns at Oxford Falls.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. It's important to know also, this isn't tax money. This is money the developer put up that we held in case they did not complete the project or they weren't following Mr. Sullivan's direction. This was a pretty important carrot to hold out in front of them to make sure they did what we wanted them to do. So they've done that, so we're giving them their money back. This is not taxpayer dollars we're giving them. Okay, all right, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Bowl?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Wisłowski? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
It's going to be a while.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're up to board comment. I'll actually go first this evening. I want to first wish, this is the first night of Hanukkah, so I want to wish those residents in Falls Township who are Jewish a very happy Hanukkah. And obviously Christmas is coming with the next few days, and wish everybody in Falls Township Merry Christmas. Obviously we won't see you again until the New Year, so a Happy New Year as well. Mr. Hetzel, who was here, who's graduated last year from Bucks County Technical High School, second in his class, and is at the Philadelphia University of the Arts studying graphic design. Was said it very well. Obviously, it's time to spend with your family, be safe, and hope everybody has a very happy holiday season. I want to thank our fire companies. I know they've been very busy over the past couple of weeks, helping Santa Claus make his way around the various township neighborhoods. And they've been doing a lot of work so that he can get around and see all the kids before it's a busy time of year for him. So I want to thank all them for all their efforts. Also, there's a Christmas tree pickup. This is looking after Christmas. For those of you that have real trees, I'm going to be putting those real trees out. Christmas trees will be picked up on Saturday the 7th and also Saturday the 14th by Waste Management. So you can, being asked by Waste Management, please do not put trees out for pickup prior to January 7th. Trees won't be picked up before that date. Right? After the 14th, you can put the trees out with regular trash. Christmas trees that are over 6 feet or well over 6 feet, excessively large trees must be cut in half. Please remove all plastic bags and decorations from the tree before you put it out. And that's something they use to compost the trees. So obviously, if it's got plastic around it or if it's ornaments or things still on it, that obviously doesn't compost very well. So mark your calendar. Saturday the 7th, Saturday the 14th are the days you can put your tree out for Waste Management to pick up for just like the leaf collection. They'll do that on those special days. Just, as we close here, this is, Mr. Zupka has been on this board for 12 years. It's a long time. One of the first supervisors to be reelected to a position in the history of the township. And I want to thank him for his service here on this board. I guess I'll not sure how you'll get over, not coming to these meetings, and I'm sure you'll be missing all of this. But obviously, wish you well on I guess I don't know if it's quite calling retirement or not. I'm not sure. I guess it's retirement in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, some way.
So I want to thank you very much and wish you all the best. Mr. Dents, comments from you?
Following up what you just said, wishing Mr. Zupka well. It's been a pleasure working with him. I know he's put a lot of years in. I recently read in a magazine a quote that a township supervisor's job is basically a volunteer position with professional expectations, which is very, very true. And just wish him well and thank him for the years of service and wish everyone a happy holiday. And that's it.
Mr. Snipes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, I think, for facilitating our shortest meeting in history, I believe, of Falls Township Board of Supervisors, I believe, at least in the years I've been on the board. So I would just want to say also Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year to everyone in the township. And that we, I think, have a pretty good list of accomplishments this year as a board. And I'm thinking about next year and looking forward to the work on the Senior Center, continuing the road program, and Biles Island also, I think, is a really exciting project, opening up maybe the first trails on Biles Island and opening them to the public. So that's just a few. I know there are many other things that are ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to 2 new board members coming on. So I'm just, obviously it's a shift. It's a time of change in the township. I think it's be a positive change, and I'm looking forward to working with the new board members. And our reorganization meeting is on January 3rd, so we'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Zupka?
Thank you. This will probably be the last time I have to speak to the residents from here. I've been honored to have served on this the Board of Supervisors for the past 12 years. I've made many friends. Yes, I've lost a couple, but I've learned. It was very exciting at times up here. Sometimes it was a little depressing, but always interesting, and in a good way. You really don't know what it is to be involved with government, even though it's the volunteer position. Watching what goes on in Washington, I can see the same things, smaller, but all the same things going on here. The notions everybody have of how government works, you find out sometimes it just doesn't really work that way. I don't mean that's a bad thing. It's a good thing, but sometimes it just seems like it takes too long to do things, but there's always all the checks and balances and getting everybody to agree. So with the holiday season here now, as they say, peace on earth, goodwill to all. Thank you. It's been an exciting trip. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and with that, to thank all board members and for a very good meeting. Again, one of the smoothest we've ever had. I'm sure there's a secret to why that is. Maybe it's not quite a secret. I want to thank our staff for all the work they've done throughout this year. Wish them a very Merry Christmas We've, Happy Hanukkah to those members of our Falls Township family who celebrate Hanukkah, and thank them for being here this evening. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.